دایی یه فرصت خوب حالا پشت مدافع خداداد عزیزی توی دروازه گل برای ایران خداداد عزیزی باز هم روی زمین گشت سردار آزمون و توی دروازه آزمون گل به نام آزمون و برای ایران بزنه کریم انصاری گل توی دروازه کریم انصاری دروازه پرتغال باز شد علی دایی صاحب توپ توی دروازه گل اشتباه حرکت از کوچان نجات فرصت برای کوچان نجات توی دروازه گل برای ایران.
Welcome back to Bezan podcast. My name's Arya Allahverdi. I'm joined by Babak Golriz, Pezhman, and back after a long absence, Sina Saemian. Sina, how you doing?
Very well, thank you, Arya. It's great to be back. As you said, it's been way too long.
Good to have you back. Pezhman?
I'm super excited that Sina is back again.
Fantastic. And Babak, good to have you back on again.
I'm always happy to be joined by the original boy band.
Fantastic. Okay, so in today's episode, we'll be analysing the 27-man squad called up by Dragan Skocic. We'll then preview the Iran versus Lebanon match to be played on Thursday at 12 p.m. UK time. I believe it's 2 p.m. Lebanon time at Saida Football Stadium in the city of Sidon in Lebanon. We will then have a short segment with Ali Zeineddine from Lebanon Football Guide, who will speak about the Lebanese camp ahead of the match on Thursday. To start with, we're going to speak about the squad, 27 players called up. Goalkeepers, Ali Zabiran, Amir Abazadeh and Payam Niazman. Centre-backs, Majid Hosseini, Shoja Khalilzadeh, Hossein Kanani and Siavash Yazdani. Full-backs, Sadegh Muharrami, Milad Mohammadi, Umidur Afghan and Saleh Ardani. Midfielders, Saeed Zatullahi, Ehsan Haisafi, Ahmad Nurullahi and Baid Amiri and Milad Salak. Midfielders and wingers, Ayaz Javanbakhsh, Salman Qudus, Ali Golriz, Mehdi Qaedi, Mehdi Torabi, Yasin Sanwani and Surush Rafi back in after a long absence from the squad. And last but not least, the forward, Sadar Osmoon, Karim Ansari Fard, Kaveh Rezai and Alayar Sayed Manish. So, on top of that, Pur Ali Ganji, Ali Karimi and Arif Gholami are injured. Big news is Mehdi Taremi is out of the squad. So to start with, guys, let's speak about that. Mehdi Taremi obviously wasn't called up. I'll quickly go through the timeline of what's happened, of the events that's taken place because of the omission from Taremi in the national team. On October 15th, Skocic did an interview with Croatian publication Večernje. His quote I have here regarding what he said. He was asked by the publication regarding the difference between Iranian and Croatian league players. So the quote that Skocic had for this interview was, Iranian footballers are individually and technically savvy, physically resilient, truly an invaluable level. What they lack, and where I see a lot of improvement, is tactical ability. They're not that good at it yet, but when I look at the long term, it's something that can be learned and that will raise Iranian football ladder even further. Europeans have always been tactically tidy, and as Iran has more and more players in European clubs, that is slowly starting to change. And then Taremi put out a tweet on the 20th of October stating that, in his opinion, Iranian players are good tactically. However, the problems are elsewhere, in his view. Some days later, Skocic mentioned that the interview was taken out of context. Sadar Osmoon says he has spoken to Skocic, and Taremi and Skocic will speak out before the Lebanon match. Then Taremi did not answer any calls from Skocic and Karim Bagheri, allegedly. Last night on Iranian TV show Football Bartar, it was said that Taremi did not believe the situation needed to be discussed anymore, and he thought that maybe it'd blown over and it's not that important anymore, and they would speak about it during camp. Skocic and Bagheri were not happy that he didn't answer his phone, and as a result, they made a choice not to call him up for the list. And then finally, Bagheri has mentioned on Iranian media, Navad, that they will sort out the issues after the camp and Taremi will be back for the next round of matches. So, Sina, start with you. Give us your thoughts on this overall.
As you said, there's been a lot discussed over this matter. I think it's one of those that everyone has their own perspective and has their own opinion on what has happened and how it's been handled. But I don't think there is one party that's just completely at fault here. I think from the beginning, look, let's be honest, the comments and whether they are translated correctly or not, what Scottish has said is correct. You know, Iranian players tactically are not on the same level as you know, if you want to compare it to European players. Technically, we are, and we have always been great. It's just that the tactical knowledge allows the players to be able to use those tools that they have. And that has always been missing, which is why, you know, when we get players like Saman Qaddus or Ashkan Dejagah, when they are brought up in Europe, although technically they might be on the same level as the rest of the Iranian players, tactically and how they play on the pitch and their intelligence is almost at a different level. So what the Scottish has said is correct. The question becomes, should the manager of a national team come out and say those comments? I believe not. I think he should have been a little bit more diplomatic about his answer, whatever the question may have been. But then ultimately, Taremi's response isn't professional either. We're talking, excuse me, about the probably the best player on form at the moment for the Iranian national team, you know, scoring in the Champions League. And again, he's shown his importance for the team as well. So again, his comments were unnecessary. Now, in terms of where we find ourselves, the way Scottish has handled it, I think I could see why he would omit Taremi from the squad. I think there is always a level of discipline that is required. Now, in terms of what that discipline then is and what action that could be, of course, depends on each situation and each circumstance. I think if the national team coaches and technical staff have repeatedly tried to get in touch with Taremi and they've been unable to, and Taremi hasn't responded to them, again, if that is true, then I think the reaction that has come from Scottish is right. What isn't correct is the assumption that now Taremi is going to be left out from every single squad. That's not the case, as you said, and as Karim Bagheri mentioned as well. It could just be that he's left out of this squad, and then through conversations with Scottish, he'll be back through the next ones. But then this is a big test for Scottish as well. He's made this decision. We've got two big qualifiers coming up. Yes, the opposition might not be on the same level as South Korea per se, but again, we are losing one player from the partnership that has arguably brought us to the stage that we're on at the moment, where we are comfortably sitting at the top of the table. So it'll be interesting to see how he replaces Taremi on the pitch.
And I think, as you mentioned, there's a good point to be made, because some people would say that potentially, you know, you could bring in Taremi and put him on the bench. Would you guys agree with that, Babak?
Yeah, could have, but at the same time, I mean, the way Sina laid it out, I can't disagree with much about it. I'm a bit more of the opinion that Scotch's comments were pretty okay, and even if he's a national team manager, I think he sort of presented Iranian football in a good way. I think it was a very positive comment, so being more diplomatic might be disingenuous. So I think there was no need for Taremi to even talk. I don't know when it happened, or if it was an Iranian media, or what got him to sort of like make a comment on this, but it was very amateurish, not professional. And if he did avoid the phone calls, then definitely it was justified. Skocic already had question marks over his credibility in the squad. We know that. There are a lot of rumors. His results have sort of overshadowed any of those doubts. And this step should, if Iran gets the results over the next two games, sort of put a little line in the sand for the players in terms of respect and expectations with Skocic. He might not be Carlos Queiroz, so he might have to earn the, let's say, the respect or fear or whatever you want to call it. So I'm sort of supporting the coach, but if it backfires and we don't take 6 points, then definitely he's going to be questioned. And like you say, Arya, yes, I think he could have called him up and then left him on the bench, and then could have been, but maybe he didn't want that atmosphere to overshadow the preparations as well.
Sure. Pezhman, let's just say, for example, we don't get the results that are expected of Iran in these next two games. What is your reaction to that?
I think we will need to find a victim, someone to blame, and it will probably be Skocic, because the media, the narrative that's around now is in favor for Mehdi, because he's doing great in the national team and in the club team, and he's spoken, raised his voice for Iranian football. That's what the narrative is. So I think Skocic, this will be his first hard test with Iranian media probably. And at this point, I think Karim Bagheri is probably the most important person in his life, because Bagheri got the respect of basically everyone, the federation, the players, and the media. So he maybe should take a step forward and try to make this situation not as bad as it could be if Iran drops some points. And I believe that sooner or later, Iran will drop some points against these so-called weaker teams. And one thing that's interesting is if Iran would play South Korea, I don't think that this would be an issue. Iran is playing probably two of the weakest teams in the group, even if Lebanon have done great so far. But let's face it, Iran should beat them 99 out of 100 times. So what if this would be against South Korea? I don't think this would happen then. I think Mehdi would have answered his telephone, and the issue wouldn't have been in this big of a proportion that is at the moment.
Look, there's no doubt about Taremi's ability. Nothing there about it. Taremi, if he's available, has to be part of the national team squad. The question that's come up is should he be in it based on what he's done, the reaction that he's given to Skocic's interview? In my opinion, he's reacted to the wrong quote. He's reacted to something he's read on Iranian media. No doubt about it. Because I don't think that anyone would react badly to what Skocic just said. He's not said anything bad. We all agree on that. I think when we put the tweet out on Twitter, it was quite evident. Everyone was kind of like, yeah, it's not too bad what he said. And it actually is quite good, like you said, but it's quite a positive quote overall. Secondly, Taremi's replied to it, and he's given a bit of a snidey comment. He's given a little bit of a snidey comment, and okay, he hasn't referenced Skocic by words, but he hasn't he? It's quite obvious that that's what he's referring to. Without putting words in his mouth, that is what he's referring to. So, as a result, overall, I would agree that some kind of reprimand has to be given. Personally, if it was up to me as a coach, I would have still called him up. I would have tried to deal with it face to face. Yeah, he hasn't answered the phone. I understand that. I get it. It's quite disrespectful. You have to answer the coach's phone. It has to happen, right? But I still would have called him up. That's just my personal opinion. And I feel like they could have dealt with it better in private. Rather than, as I was saying on our Twitter space a few days ago, rather than creating this ruckus around social media and around media in general, because he's already created it anyway by saying what he said, instead of making it even bigger by not calling him up, at least put him in the squad and do it behind the scenes, make it private, and don't have all this noise. Don't make us speak about it on Bezan podcast. Do you know what I'm saying? Because ultimately, it's created it's created a question mark in the national team in our key phase in qualification. So it could have been dealt better, 100%, no doubt about it. It had to have been dealt better, and I hope that what Bagheri's come out and said last night is true, that they will try and deal with it after the camp finishes, and they will try to fix it, and he'll be called up again. And I think Sina was right in saying that. I don't think it's a long-term thing. I think he'll be back in, and I think he'll be in the next squad for the January and February matches, hopefully. Okay, so moving on, the squad was called, as I said, I mentioned the squad. So the goalkeepers, I want to ask Pezhman first. The goalkeepers, obviously, very quickly. Bayram, Niazman, and Allahverdi. Everyone wants Allahverdi to start. They like him a lot. I like him a lot as well. What's your thoughts?
Well, I have for a long time in his pod said that Allahverdi should start if Bayram doesn't play any more games. That's not the case anymore. He's actually playing games in Boavista and doing quite well. So I see no harm in letting Bayram being the number one in the national team. But I'm happy that there's a competition on that spot, which is usually not always the case in teams and national level as well. So Amir is ready. I won't be worried if Bayram gets injured. That Amir won't do a good job, but Bayram would be the number one.
Sina, I mean, we've not heard from you for a while, but I want to get your thoughts. A lot has changed now over the last year with the goalkeepers. They've all got their moves to Europe. You know, what's your thoughts on it now?
Well, it's actually really easy at some point to compare their career, because, you know, when Bayram made the move to Europe, we all thought, okay, this is a challenge for him now. This could be the move that will really allow him to take the next step in his career and reach the next level. That's not been the case for whatever reason. And on the other side, you have Allahverdi, who's had the opposite, where his career has just been on an upwards trajectory throughout the last few years. And a lot of people criticize his move when he moved to Spain, although the second division. But we've seen how amazing his performances have been. He's become one of the key players in his team, and probably the one of, if not the best goalkeeper in the second division of Spanish football. So I think it is about time that Allahverdi gets the chance, because let's be honest, he has earned the right to at least be given a try. Whereas Bayram, although as Pezhman said, you know, he may have been playing recently the last few games, but if you're comparing, you know, the last 2 years, for example, there's not really much to go on. Now, of course, in the grand scheme of things, whether Bayram plays, Allahverdi plays, or even Niazman, technically, based on the quality that we have, and if the last few games are anything to go by, neither of them are going to be really tested. And let's hope that will be the case. But as I said, I think Allahverdi starting is more of a reward for the efforts and for the right decisions that he has made. Because let's not forget, you know, this is a goalkeeper who was on the bench for Rohan at some point, and he was also the second or third choice goalkeeper for Persepolis before he made the move to Portugal. So he chose the hard way, and he's, as I said, he's earned the right to be spoken about for this spot, and he's earned the right to be given a try as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. Babak, thoughts on Niazman? Because look, yes, he's not playing regularly for Portimonense in Portugal, but what's going through his mind right now?
I think he probably looks at his colleagues in goal. He looks at Allahverdi for inspiration, like what Sina said. He will look at Bayram, the fact that he had to bide his time last season as well before he got his chances. He'll probably be confident in himself and hope that he gets his chance with the goalkeeper, maybe the first goalkeeper getting injured, or him proving himself in training. So I don't think he has any, let's call it, realistic ambitions to be Iran number one in the short term. He knows that there's a two strong obstacles in front of him. If I can add a little bit on Allahverdi, I agree with the guys, but at the same time, Bayram had been solid for Iran. There are no reasons for him to be, let's say, dropped. And if you're going to give Allahverdi a chance, a reward, then you do it in a home game against Lebanon or Syria. You don't do it in an away game. So I would not throw Allahverdi in Lebanon. I know they're probably not fans, but still I would not do it. That's just too risky, considering everything that you know. I mean, there's no justification for the coach to do that. There are too many, let's say, too many holes in the argument potentially, and I don't think we can afford that. So right. Bayram should stay in goal, and then Allahverdi should get his chance, but probably not in such away games.
Right. And moving on to the defenders, Majid Hosseini, Khalilzadeh, Kanani, and Yazdani, who's come in basically to replace Purali Ganji. But Babak, coming back to you again, when you speak about these players, you know, Khalilzadeh and Kanani have been the starting two for all of Scottish's matches, except that one where they played a back three with Purali Ganji in the middle. They've been there together as a duo the whole time. So my question to you is, does that need to change? Is it good to keep the consistency, or does a mix-up need to happen?
I mean, we watched the game against UAE and we saw that our defense was a bit all over the place. We're trying to play the high line at times, and the coordination is pretty poor. I think from Scotch's side, he's thinking, I've got results in 9-10 games because of these two guys, or on the back of having these two guys. They know each other quite well from the Persepolis days. I'm not a fan of the partnership personally. I don't mind Kanani. I think Kanani, even Carlos Queiroz gave him some chances. I think he gets by, but I'm definitely not a fan of Khalilzadeh personally. And he's a liability. I think Majid Hosseini being back in the fold is good. He's starting to play games after his injury and his stop-start, let's say, season with Kayserispor. I'm not sure if he's going to get a start, but personally, I think that Hosseini and Purali Ganji are our best two centre backs, and I don't think this centre back pairing is going to take us too far when it comes to facing far better opposition.
Yeah, and if I had to just blow the trumpet of Majid Hosseini a little bit, he did play against Fenerbahce this weekend. He was really, really good. So if they do want to start him, I'm not going to be against it. Pezhman, overall, the back four, let's just go to it again. Or the other players we have are Moharami, Mirad Mohammadi, Omid Nur Afghan, and Saleh Ardani. Overall, the back four, what do you want to see from them in these next two games? Are you expecting clean sheets?
Yes, I'm expecting clean sheets. Maybe a given penalty by like a reckless Khalilzadeh or Kanani. But I think I want to have Moharami and Mohammadi at each in the right and the left, because I think we need to expect Iran to be the team that goes forward, that wants to attack both from the middle and from both sides. And in my opinion, those two are the best. I believe Nur Afghan is maybe better in the defense than Mohammadi, and he can help in the midfield as well. While Moharami is a more complete kind of player that can both do well in the defense and the offense, and he's been getting a lot of playing time in Dinamo Zagreb after his injury. So I don't see why he shouldn't start, to be honest. But on the left side, Mohammadi, I just hope that Ehsan Hoysavi doesn't start there. I mean, now that he's actually
there's
getting
also
some minutes in Greece.
There's also Vaid Amiri, who can play left back as well. Who's played? I think he played there actually in the South Korea game. So
yeah, I don't believe this will happen.
He's not playing at left back.
No, he's playing midfield.
Yeah, exactly. And Mohammadi started the last game.
Yes.
At the weekend as well at left back. He was the only one of the three Iranian players there starting. So hopefully they stick to their positions, like Pezhman says.
Sina, coming on to that as well, the fullbacks. A couple of players that we just mentioned, Moharami, Saleh Ardani, Milad Mohammadi, young players with a lot of talent, a lot of ability. What's the long-term plan for these guys?
Well, I mean, from those fullbacks that you just read, it's only Saleh Ardani who probably you could say has a long-term future. The rest are all, I mean, Saleh Moharami as well, as we know, he's probably the number one right back at the moment, not being challenged. But on the left-hand side, Nur Afghan, again, is he a left back? Is he a midfielder? He's played almost every position. He did play really well in the last couple of games for the national team whenever he's come on, and I think he started one of the games as well. I just can't remember which game it was. But the good thing with Nur Afghan is, like I said, he's versatile. He can fill in any position, and he probably is a long-term replacement for Hartsafi more than anyone else, in the fact that wherever he's needed, he can do a good job, and that's probably why Hartsafi has stayed into the team and why he moved to the national team setup so early. He made his debut, I think, when he was 17. and has been there ever since. So that versatility can help Nur Afghan. And again, with Hardani as well, what we've seen so far has been excellent at club level. But of course, he's got a very fierce challenge ahead of him to be able to get ahead of Moharrami, who again I think even on the days of Rezayan and Khafuri, we were adamant that Moharrami should be involved. If there were doubts now, there is no question that he's the number one right back.
For sure. And on Hardani, I think he's a really, again, a top talent. And hopefully, eventually we can, if, he has to play, we get the best out of him, because we don't want a guy just to be in the squad just to make numbers up. We want to be able to actually play these guys when they need to play. Pezhman, I'll come to you about the midfielders. In your opinion, midfield 3 or midfield 2?
3, probably. I don't know, because as I said before, the teams are about to change tactics during the games, and they should be able to manage that. No matter what, I think whoever plays with Said Ezotalai, as long as he plays, the players next to him will benefit from that. So with Said, at least 2. Without Said, we need 3. That's what I would
agree. Sina, when you were speaking about Said, he's a great, fantastic player. And even in the South Korea game, I don't know if you remember, he had that little moment where he went past 2 or 3 players, a bit of injection of speed, and got the shot away, hit the post. He can do that, but it's not something he's going to be able to do long term. What does he need around him? Does he need a Vaidami to play next to him all the time? Could we potentially play a Salman Ghoddos in a midfield 3 with him? What could we do?
So with Said, again, as we've seen him over the years, his best position is number 6, the holding midfielder. But one thing I just wanted to go back to is what Babak said earlier on when we were talking about the back 4, and he mentioned that the defense has been all over the place in the last game, and probably the last couple of games as well, and that's because of Skoshish's insistence to play a midfield 2 consisting of Ezzatullahi. Now, in order for that back 4 to be protected, in order for the defenders to be able to not be exposed as often as they have, we need Said to be in his best position, and we need a midfield 3. That's my opinion. And I think Taremi's absence allows him that opportunity to play with the midfield 3, which I think should include Ghoddos as well. Now, again, central midfield, probably not Ghoddos' best position, but the player of his quality will be able to contribute regardless of whether he's playing number 10 on the wing or central midfield. So I think Ezzatullahi should be playing the holding midfielder role, and Ghoddos most definitely should be starting the game. Again, if there was question marks over his club form and the lack of games he's shown that in the last couple of weeks, I think he's had a goal and an assist in the last 2 games. So he should definitely be a starter. And we Said, as we said, him playing a holding midfield should.
Wouldn't you say, for me, Said was, if not the best player, in the top 2 of the last 2 games at the very least?
Yeah.
So you're suggesting that we were exposed partly because of Said, or the
not
fact
because
that Said didn't have, let's call it, the right foil in midfield?
It's not necessarily Said. So let's take Said out of it. So let's talk about the actual positions that they were playing. I think a lack of a holding midfielder constantly creates this hole in front of the back 4, in which then the central defenders, due to miscommunication and other factors, are constantly being brought out of position. Now, having a holding midfielder will partly solve that. Of course, it's about how you use a holding midfielder, but that position itself could be the answer to making the defense a little bit more solid where they don't get exposed. Now, when we talk about the holding midfielder, the best holding midfielder we've got, and again, without a shadow of a doubt, is Said. But I agree, he has been Iran's best player in the last couple of games, but him playing number 6 again doesn't necessarily mean that wasn't the case. It's more that him playing there will bring a lot more to the defensive side and allows other players such as Ghoddos to be able to get in the game, whereas obviously the last few games that's not been the case. It allows Ghoddos to be able to play, And again, I'm sure he can find a way to be able to fit all our attacking talents on the pitch with playing three in the middle.
I personally think that Porto's can play in that midfield three, number 8, if you like. There was a very good analysis video made by B's Tactical on Twitter. We actually shared it if you want to go and check it out. It's a very good video, and it shows the kind of qualities that he has that maybe you don't see from him all the time, because he plays in such advanced roles most of the time in his career. He plays a winger or attacking midfielder or a second striker. You don't see it, but he has the ability to come deep and control play. And against Asian opponents, frankly, I don't think he's going to have any issues. You know, I really don't think he's going to have any issues. And I think he can definitely keep up with the pace of the game. No doubt about it. You're playing in the Premier League. You need to be fit, you know, so I don't think there's an issue or a question mark on that, or the fitness or the speed of the play. He can do all that. And you look at someone like Ahmad Nurullahi, as much as he runs and he does put all his effort into the game, the question I always have is how much quality is he actually providing with those runs and that energy? Is he actually doing any favors for the team, or is he just doing it for the sake of doing it? You know, because that's all he knows. You know, so I think ultimately someone has to be in there regardless if you're going to have an Ahmad Nurullahi or a Vahid Amiri in there.
Can I just say as well, going back to Saeed is probably the only player, maybe Vahid Amiri being the next in line, who, when he's on the pitch, he has the ability to make his teammates look good. Now, when you combine that with the role that is actually made to bring the best out of the rest of the team, which is a number 6, you've got a match made in heaven. And I think there's not a lot of teams in Asia who can boast that quality of a player to be able to play that position, which is a very difficult position to play. It requires a lot of intelligence, whether it's on the ball and off the ball. And we have that with Azzatullah. And I think it should be something that we use a lot more, as Taremi's absence would give him the opportunity to do that.
Babak?
Yeah, I think Saeed is the most important player in Skocić's system. Over the last couple of games, and maybe more, he stood out, like Sina said. He's made everyone else look good. All the good moves for Iran went through him. He controlled the tempo. He was very calm. I think he is probably playing the best he's ever played for us at the national team.
Yeah.
For me, he would be the first name on the team sheet, indispensable, which makes it a difficult situation with Saman. I can't see. I think for Skocić, personally, I think it's Saman or Saeed to a degree. He sees Saman in a similar role, playmaker, controlling tempo, etc. This would be a good opportunity without Taremi to fit in Saman, because otherwise, where would you play Saman? Definitely not in the midfield 2 with Saeed. That would mean an advanced role behind the strikers in a 3, or on wide instead of maybe Javanbakhsh or Golriz, if possible. So it limits Saman's opportunities, how important Saeed is to us and how well he's been playing. It sort of limits him. But I agree with Sina. Skocić has to find a way to include Saman in the team, because he is probably one of the most talented and intelligent players in the team. And we don't want to lose that out, because someone is versatile. I don't think it's someone and Saeed. Personally, for me, it wouldn't be. It would be how to get someone and Saeed to play together while maintaining Mehdi Taremi and Sardar Azmoun in the team.
Yeah, for sure. Pezhman, interesting one. Surush Rafi's in the squad. How did that happen?
I don't know.
How'd that happen? Like, players? How did he get in the squad? I don't get it. I mean, he scored an overhead kick last week. I mean, that could be the reason why. But like, if I'm being perfectly honest, like, I'm saying this with a lot of like, I do watch some of the matches for Sepan. I don't understand why he's in the squad. I don't get it. Like, as far as I'm concerned, you already have a Yasin Salmani there, and you already have a Salman Quddus, and you potentially also have a Ali Golriz who can play as an attacking midfielder, and he's been doing that for Charleroi. Why have you brought? I don't get why Surush Rafi is there. because last camp he called up 26 players, and this camp he's put 27 players. So in my opinion, numerically, Rafi is just another player there for no reason. Like, it's a bit weird. I don't know if you agree.
But Surush have been on and off the national team, never been a starter, hardly. But he's been like in a couple of camps. So I think maybe Bagheri and other players, they know of his qualities. They know what they can expect from him. And he's got a decent run in Sepahan lately. So I think it's the overall judgment and just not just like the last 4 or 5 games, but I think he's mostly there for training, being in the second team when the first team was probably Nurullahi and even Nurullah Saeed and Javanbakhsh and all these other players, and he's in the opponent team.
Yeah, and I want to quickly touch on this. Yassine Salmani, he's been part of the U23 squad. He was probably one of the best, probably the best player in that team. He was the captain. And within a couple of weeks, he's now in the national team squad again. I mean, for me, there's no doubt about it. He's an unbelievable talent, and 100%. Like, we want to see more players like him come in. And I think if we can get a player like Yassine Salmani playing regularly for the national team, he's only 19 years old. It's a bit early, but over a period of time, once we get a player like him acclimatized with the squad, acclimatized with the lineup, and actually playing matches, we have a real player in our hands, So, keep an eye on Yassine. I think he can be a potentially really, really good player for us in the future. But moving on to the forward, last but not least, obviously a lot of forwards called up. We've got the likes of Qaidi, Torabi can play as a winger. We've got Javanbakhsh, Golriz, Sardar Azmoun, Karim Ansarishvard, and obviously back in the squad, Allahverdi Sayed Manish, along with Cover Rezai. In my opinion, there's a player there who should probably be there, but he's not, and that's Shahab Zahedi, who's doing unbelievable things right now in Zorya Luhansk. Pezhman, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, we discussed this before and earlier. He's doing good, but at the moment, I mean, he's like probably number 5 or 6 to getting a starting place. Now, let's say that Taremi would actually be in the squad. So, and he's a striker. So that would be Azmoun and Taremi. They're number 1 and 2. Karim Ansarifard is probably number 3. Number 4 would probably be Qaidi, in my opinion, or maybe even Kaveh Rezai. They are like number 4 and 5. So he would be like number 6 in the list. And then I would prefer to have Allahverdi Sayed Manish instead of him, because he's more of a prospect and has a more of a future in the national team than Shahab. Shahab is just simply not good enough to compete with those players. And I'm even talking about Kaveh Rezai, although he's like have a really tough time at the moment and like he's under the ice. We know what we can expect from him, but look at him. He doesn't get any playing time in the national team. So I prefer those players that I mentioned before Shahab.
But, you cannot deny he's been in unbelievable form. And there's been, little murmurs here and there that he could potentially be picked up by the Ukrainian national team. So we'll see what happens there. Babak, who's the guy who replaced Taremi then?
Depends on the system. He could go 4-2-3-1, add someone in behind Azmoun, and then play 2 wide, Javanbakhsh and Golriz, so he doesn't have to replace him with a striker. If he wants to go sort of like for like, maybe he goes with Kaveh on paper could fit that, but I think Karim would be ahead of him in the pecking order. So Karim and Sardar, but I don't know. I don't see that clicking. I would love to see Sayed Manish get a chance, to be honest with you. Could be a good opportunity to reward him for all the let's say, impressive performances he's had this season. So it's really tough to guess. Depends if he wants to go with 2 strikers or 1. But my money will be Karim Ansari Fahad and staying with the similar system that he's had before.
Sina, what do you make of that? Would you like to see maybe someone playing in behind an Osmoon? Maybe having Golriz and Javanbakhsh out wide?
I would always like to see someone. So, and even putting that aside, I always prefer a team that plays with 3 in the middle. And I think we have the tools to be able to do that. We have the players to be able to play midfield 3, whether that be 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1. Either way, I think, as I said, Taremi not being in the squad gives Skocic an opportunity to maybe try something different. It's not too risky to play 4-2-3-1, or as I said, even 4-3-3. It's a system that these players have played previously on the Carlos Queiroz, and they are familiar with it. And like I said, it gives him some food for thought as well going forward. If there is a change in system required for whatever reason during any game, he can always rely on it. So I think this could be an opportunity. As Babak said, I would love to see Allahverdi or Zeineddine get some minutes as well. He's been on amazing form with Shahab Zahedi, as you mentioned, Arya. And I agree with you. I think there are certain scenarios where a player may not be good enough to be a starter, because Pezhman is also right. He's not going to be a player that will start for Iran when everyone's fit. But because of the form that he's in, it is worth inviting him to the squad, just as I said, almost like a reward, because these players go abroad, go to Europe for the chance to play for the national team. And when those decisions, they execute it so well, they deserve a chance. Now, I have a feeling that with Shahab Zahedi, his past might be a little bit of a problem, considering that he's got doping history, which, again, from back in his time in Iran, I think when he was with Persepolis at the time. So I wonder if that has impacted the decisions not to invite him. But going back to the original question, midfield 3, 100%, and on one striker up front.
Yeah, I would agree. I think I would love to see a Sardar getting the service in the midfield from someone. I think those two can combine very well. We saw a glimpse of it actually in the Iran-Vietnam game of the Asian Cup, where someone was kind of playing in and around Sardar, and they actually got an assist for him as well. Or was it for Taremi? I think it was an assist for Taremi, but they played really well. But overall, we want to see that. I think we want to see someone in that whole. And as we've interviewed Golriz recently, a player who's in unbelievable form, Golriz could really be damaging against a team like Lebanon, who I don't think are going to be fantastic defensively. And then even at Mehdi, maybe we see that guy who everyone's been raving about for a long time. Obviously made a disappointing choice to go to Emirates and play his football there rather than going to Europe, but he's still a very good player and we still want to see him play. So yes, you maybe see him, but I think Zeineddine, if you're going to bring a sub on, is the guy. He's been unbelievable. I'm watching his games in the Conference League and he's running past players as if not even there. The speed this kid has is unbelievable, and that comes from, real hard work. He's a hard-working young man. So we expect to see him in the national team more and more. I don't want to just see him in the squad because he's replacing Taremi. I think he should be there regardless. In my opinion, he should be there instead of Torabi. Because he's playing as a winger for Zoria. So if Torabi is playing as a winger for Persepolis, why can't you just bring in a guy who's playing really well in Europe over him? Because why is he in the squad? I'm not trying to say he shouldn't be in the squad ever, Torabi, but recently his form for Persepolis hasn't been very good. So, maybe you could have brought Saemian in as a winger and then you could have brought in a Zahedi, So there's always ways you can shuffle around. Next up, we're going to have a little discussion with Ali Zeineddine from Lebanon Football Guide. How you doing, my friend?
Hello, glad to be here again.
Glad to have you back on the podcast. We had you on for the episode covering the group analysing the Group A. Of course, now we're going to play against Lebanon on Thursday. Can you give us a little bit of the squad that's going to face Iran on Thursday?
Basically, I'll just highlighting the Lebanese football and Lebanese national team, especially in this time when we are making some good results in the World Cup qualifications. So there is a big audience and a lot of people just want to cheer the national team, want to be there. Unfortunately, we're not gonna be inside the stadium because of security reasons. But anyway, and we cannot watch the game on TV also, but we're gonna watch it on YouTube or any streaming live on the internet. But I believe like millions of Lebanese people are now cheering for the national team and supporting it. Now we've made some good results. We have a good squad, except that we are missing our captain and top goal scorer Hassan Matouk, who scored 21 goals for Lebanon. So that will be a big hit for us. But I believe Coach Ivan Hashek will find good players to play against Iran. Maybe the same tactics we played against Korea. Sony Saad as a tactical player, more like defensive and not offensive. And we also have Basil Jiradi, who's making a great, actually, playing abroad. And we also have many players playing abroad, like Hadi Hamdour, who's playing in England, Omar Bougail too, Rabi Ataya in Malaysia. We have Nader Matar and Alexander Maki in Qatar, Felix Melki in Sweden, and also Mohamed Haini. So we have a lot of players. Juan Omari, of course, in Japan. We have a lot of players playing abroad, and basically they are the best players. They are the players who Coach Ivan Hashek are counting on them.
And obviously, as you mentioned, you do have a couple of players missing. How do you expect Lebanon to potentially line up, and what do you expect from the match?
I guess the same lineup against South Korea. Mustafa Matar as a goalkeeper, who made some very great appearances. He is not actually our first goalkeeper. Our first keeper is Mehdi Khalil, who have a big injury. So we'll have him maybe the next year. But Matar proved himself. We have Juan Omari and Alexander Merki as center backs. Maybe we'll play with 3 center backs. I don't know, because this is the first time Ivan Hashik has called 5 players who play as center backs. We have Qasim Sen, who is a center back, but he's playing as a left back, and Abbas Asi, who is a midfielder, but playing as a right back. This is the first time he's playing as a right back with the national team, and he also made some good appearances. Felix Melki, of course, and Mohamed Haini as center backs, because they are very good defensively, and Felix Melki can play offensively also. Great bodies, and I believe they can be good against Iranian players, since they also have this big personality and big strength in the field. Basil Jiradi, of course, that's number 1 right now in Lebanon. Then we have Mohamed Douh, who scored 2 goals against Syria. He's also one of the top goal scorers in the Lebanese league. He played in Iraq, he played in Bangladesh, in Saudi Arabia also, so we are counting on him. And then we have Rabi Ataya, who is like the key player, as the coach mentioned before, but he won't start. He's the kind of player who can play like 30 minutes as a peak, like he can be very useful in the last 30 minutes. Of course, that's if we are drawing against Iran. Now, if we can make good result against Iran, I believe we can after those 4 games. So we've said in the previous episode, like it's a huge surprise for us, and I believe a huge surprise for everyone in the group, and maybe even in the second group, that we are now in 3rd place after 4 matches, all away games. We have 5 points. Even the loss against South Korea was only by 1 goal, and we played good. I don't believe there is a huge difference between the team now with Ivan Hashik and Jamal Taha, the previous coach. but like it's better, especially that he didn't have a lot of time to like give his tactics to the players and didn't have a lot of changes. But it's better right now. We believe in him more, and the players, I believe that they also believe that they can make good results. It's our best performance in World Cup qualifications, and it's also the second time we reached the third round. We only got 5 points in 2014. That's from 8 matches. Now only 4 matches and 5 points. We still have 6 matches and 5 consecutive matches outside the stadium. So I don't know. We think we can make a good result against Iran, especially that Mehdi Taremi is not playing. So yeah, we'll wait and see.
What's your prediction for the match?
Predictions, I believe like I don't know, a nil match or maybe a win by 1 goal for Iran, but that's my predictions. Now I wish I win, of course. I believe it's very hard because Iran are the better team, of course, in the group. I'm wishing for a win, of course, but I believe we can get like a draw. A 1 point would be great for us because we need to win against the Arabic teams more than Iran and South Korea. Because if we win 3 games against UAE, Iraq, and Syria, I believe we can make it at least in the 3rd place. So we'll have a good chance to qualify.
Thank you so much, Ali. I really appreciate your time. Make sure you follow Lebanon Football Guide on all platforms. And yeah, thanks again.
Thank you, mate, and good luck for both teams.
Okay, back from this interview with Ali Zeineddine. Appreciate his time. Going to go on to a little preview of Iran against Lebanon again, played on Thursday, the stadium, which is called Saida Football Stadium. Guys, I want to just ask you individually your thoughts on how we should actually line up overall. Go with Sina.
Like I said, I think when it comes to the actual formation, I would probably go with a 4-2-3-1 or any variation of a midfield 3. I think the back 4, including the goalkeeper, kind of writes itself if the past few games are anything to go by. With Milad Mohammadi at left back and Kanoni Shuja in the middle, Moharami on the right, and Bayram in goal. With midfield 3, I'd love to see Izzatullahi back in the position that he his favourite position almost, number 6, with Quddus and probably Nurullahi in front of him. And again, the front 3, again, pretty much write themselves in terms of Javanbakhsh, Golriz, Osman. That is probably our strongest lineup with that formation. But again, whether he would want to play the strongest lineup, considering we have probably a tougher game against Syria coming up a few days later, again, that's something we're going to find out. But I think if he wants to play the strongest team for this game, I would say that probably is it.
Any objections? No, Pezhman?
No, I would probably let Javanbakhsh rest. And
I believe he had an injured a bit this week, so maybe he will rest. I don't know.
Yeah, he's been doing quite well for national team though. But
yeah, of course he has.
I will probably let him rest, and I would love.
I'm going to say something controversial. Are
you going to say that Osman should rest? Because I think that should be done too.
No, we can't afford that. But I will say that Javanbakhsh, he's got the final product in the last few games, no question. He's been at the end of all the important chances and he's put them away. But performance-wise, would you say he's been really good? I think we can't drop him. You can't drop him because of the output, which he never had before. We used to complain about it. He's got it now. But performance-wise, I honestly have my doubt over his performances.
If we are talking about the performance alone, like you said, if we discard of the outputs and the final product, when have his performances been up to scratch for Team Melli, even on the K-Rush?
That's true. That's also true. But he's almost undroppable because of the output. It's like a golden charm. But like Pezhman said, it's an opportunity if he's not fully fit and he's coming back from injury to try someone else, because it's just not clicking. And even at Feyenoord, it's not really clicked yet. While the players around him are really scoring and assisting, but for him, it's still not really fell into place. Whether it's he needs more games, or it's the rust from all these years at Brighton on the bench, or if it's confidence, I don't know. But he's still not gotten into full gear.
I think he can, though. That's the thing. I think he can, but he doesn't do it. You know what I mean? There's always a little thing with him where he tries to play the simple pass too much, and he does the easy things. And then, yes, he has those moments where he scores goals, but within a match, how many times does he play the backward pass, the simple sideways pass, that you want him to, you expect him not to do that, but he still does it, you know? So I think it's a mental thing for him, you know? But yeah, I want to ask you guys regarding what are the keys to victory. Babak, Pezhman, when you're looking at this game, Lebanon, you know, ultimately, they don't really have much. They're also missing their top striker through injury. Do you think we could easily go and score 3 or 4 goals?
It's never easy when you're playing against this competition. Even if Lebanon is new in this late stage of the World Cup qualifiers, they show that they're a hard team to play against. So I don't think Iran should, and I think they would take it easily. But then again, I think for the Iranian players' mentality and like getting to find the rhythm, I'm hoping for an early goal, as I always do, because I think then the players can relax a bit more and they can play the way they actually play. But I don't think they will rush into anything. So can they score 3 or 4 goals? Of course. But will they do that? Probably not. Like maybe now even less than Taremi is away. But it's hard. But I think they shouldn't underestimate Lebanon at all, and they should be playing like they're playing for getting to the World Cup. Even if it's against South Korea or anyone else, it shouldn't matter.
Sina?
Let's not forget that Golriz came closest to being sacked from Iran when Iran lost to Lebanon. Excuse me, when they played in Beirut, Iran lost 1-0. I remember that a few years ago. There was a lot of controversy after the game in terms of Queiroz needing to be sacked. So I'm interested to see how we do. I think that, and I know it's probably feels like a simple answer, but focus and concentration in these kind of games are of extreme importance, more than usual, because, you know, when you play against South Korea, you're already motivated, you're already focused, because you understand the quality that the opposition has. In this case, of course, Lebanon do pose a threat. But if that threat ultimately turns into goals, it'll be because of our lack of focus and concentration and kind of underestimating Lebanon, which we shouldn't do. As Pezhman said, can we score 3 or 4? Yes, 100% we can, regardless of what of the team we play in terms of the formation or the individuals, the quality we have in the squad. We can score 3 or 4. Whether we will or not is a different question. And again, let's not forget, I think one thing that you mentioned right at the start, Arya, is the fact that they're not playing in Beirut, which I assume is going to be a substandard stadium with a terrible pitch, which doesn't work in our favor if we're going to play with the ball a lot on the ground. So that's going to be a factor. I'm sure we will win, but whether we can score 3 or 4, I hope we can, but I'm not so sure.
Bye-bye.
I don't see it the same way as the guys. I think Lebanon's defense has been good. They've only conceded more than once against Syria when they were already 3-1 up. Korea beat them 1-0 in Seoul. They drew against Iraq, dominating them, keeping them down to 1 shot, and they drew against UAE, and we saw how much trouble UAE gave Iran. We were lucky to escape there, to be honest with you. So I think it's going to be tight. 3 or 4. I mean, yeah, anything is possible, but there's nothing that suggests we will score 3 or 4. It's going to be tight. We need to score an early first goal, like the guys said. because it'll take the pressure off us. The longer it stays even, it's going to be nerve-wracking, I think. So most important thing, take the 3 points. That's it, however we do it. So, and to be honest, a draw is not the end of the world, considering they're the closest team to Iran and South Korea. So drawing against them, probably not a disaster, especially if we pick up the 3 points against Syria. Of course, I'm talking mathematics now, but in football fundamentals, we need to take 6 points.
Yeah, definitely. And, I would agree with Babak. I think we can't underestimate Lebanon. They're, although on paper not the strongest side, they have actually been playing quite well. And I think there's a case to be made that, away from home, anything can happen. So, yes, there's no fans in the stadium, but you never know. As Sina said, the state of the pitch, you can never tell with these countries. So we need to be really good, I think, to beat Lebanon. I don't think it's going to be an easy game, and I think it all comes down to how many chances we can create early on in the game. If we can create a lot of chances early on, I think it'll set a tempo that I don't know if Lebanon can reach. However, if we come in the game very timid and underestimating and being complacent, I think it can be quite bad overall. So let's see how it goes. Predictions, guys?
I will go with 2-0.
Pezhman?
6-0 Iran.
That's not a prediction. That's a wish. That's a wish. You're blowing candles out, Pezhman.
Don't worry.
Pezhman, who gets the hat-trick?
It will be 6 different goal scorers. 2 of them will be subs.
I think Rafi will score about 3 goals, won't he?
From 3 set pieces.
Babak?
In the interest of tradition, I'm going with a 1-1 draw.
Wow. No, I think we'll win the game. I think Osman has the capabilities to cause a lot of issues in the final third. I think if they create chances for him, I should think a little bit, maybe I'm a bit wary of saying this, but a little bit of blessing in disguise about Taremi not playing this game, because we need a little bit more. I think we need to build that numerical advantage in the midfield, a bit of overload. And I think if we do that, if Skočić does do that, brings another player like someone goes in there, I think we can cause him a lot of issues. So we'll see what happens.
Can I just say, if you've been listening to this podcast from the very early days, you would know that when Babak goes for a 1-1, that shows his optimism more than anything else. He just doesn't want to jinx it.
I was just gonna comment that, like,
that's good.
That's the Babak I know. That's the Babak I miss. Blast from the past.
Right. Okay, a couple of fan questions. Just try to give us some yes or no answers, lads. So first question comes from @PCAP4Life10 on Twitter. Should we give Yasin Salmani a chance?
Sub, yes.
Sub. No minutes in, Sina?
No, I think if the opportunity is there, if we're there and we've almost wrapped up the game, last 10-15 minutes, why not?
Okay, next question comes from Conscious Flesh. They're asking, considering that we have no friendlies coming up and 5 subs available, should we start our backup players against Lebanon? Babak? Same question almost, but
can you ask that again? No, then absolutely. I thought I heard that, but it didn't make sense to me. No, absolutely not. We can't afford that.
Okay.
Maybe 1 or 2 changes here and there, but not backup. And from what I'm reading, it sounds like potentially a midfield 3 with Amiri in, who we never really spoke about, but that makes perfect sense when you look at Skočić and Carlos Queiroz' history of 3 in the middle.
Last one is Mehdi. Should he play? Asked from @NikonWS.
Yes.
I think he should play. At some point in the game.
He should be one of the first substitutes, to be honest, especially if things aren't going our way. Should be the first player they should be considered to bring on.
Yeah, I think against Asian opponents, I think he can cause a lot of damage. I think he has that kind of experience, so I think he can do that, hopefully, on Thursday. Guys, I appreciate everyone's time. Thanks again to Ali Zeineddine from Lebanon Football Guide for his time as well. Don't forget, we'll have an article before the game on our website, goalkeeperspodcast.com. We'll also do live spaces on Twitter before and after kickoff on Thursday. Again, kickoff is at 2 p.m. local time in Lebanon, so you can obviously adjust it to your own time zone. Stay tuned and follow us on all social media and podcast platforms. Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast, and also Twitter, Instagram, Facebook to follow us. And yeah, thanks again, guys.
Pleasure. Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Saeed Azatullahi and you're listening to the Bezan podcast.